to do 3 times or 4 times again and again, right?
Up next, I had a chance to sit down with Peter Downs of MarketScope for a video entitled 10 Infographics That Will Change the Way You See the Ophthalmic World. Stay tuned and enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to Mice TV. We are here with Peter Downs, who is a writer and analyst at MarketScope, and he's going to be talking about 10 infographics that change the way you see the ophthalmic world. How's it going, Peter?
Fine. How are you?
Pretty good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at MarketScope?
MarketScope is a market research firm specifically focused on ophthalmology. We report on news in ophthalmology, and we have annual market forecasts for different segments of ophthalmology around the world.
So it sounds like you've got a lot of good stuff for us here today with these charts. So let's get started with the first one.
So this first slide is on, as the title says, cataract surgeries in India and China. I just find it interesting. 2 countries, both developing economies and roughly the same size population, and they have very different levels of cataract surgery. The gap has been closing slowly, but there's a big change in both countries, but more so in India with COVID-19.
I have these World Bank statistics here that says China has about 20 million more people, so roughly the same. But China's GDP per capita nominal GDP per capita is actually 2.5 times higher than India. So what do you think might explain that discrepancy?
2 countries have had very different approaches to cataract surgery. China emphasized economic development first, and cataract surgery was mainly developed kind of a market-based surgery. So people could afford it, then they were able to get it. India took a very different approach, a very strong charitable sector in India, and they concentrated on developing very cheap intraocular lenses and other supplies using cataract surgery. Nearly 6 million, probably 90% of the cataract surgeries in India are either free or subsidized. Estimated manufacturers' revenues, looking from left to right, China's at the top in revenue, while having much fewer IOLs installed than India. India, on the lower right-hand corner there, is the clear leader in the number of IOLs, but they're very cheap IOLs. So the large proportion of people getting IOLs in India are still getting the hard lenses that are maybe $2 or $3 or each, compared to $100 or $150 for a flexible.
Other countries you mentioned maybe like between the 150 and 200 range in terms of how much each IOL costs. Why are manufacturing revenues in India so low? I mean, they aren't just low, they're incredibly low.
Yeah, so India has a number of India-based companies making very cheap IOL. Aravind is a well-known nonprofit hospital system in India. They have a manufacturing arm to make their own IOLs. They export to other parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, but even when they export, the price is a few times the price that they charge in India. And I find this interesting, just to look at kind of the top cornea problems in the outside of the most highly developed markets. They really vary by region. Africa, you have trachoma is a much bigger problem than in any other region.
That big bar for trachoma really, really pops out at me. I know that organizations like Helen Keller International have been doing a lot of work getting that number down, Mali, for example. And countries like the Gambia have recently actually eradicated this disease. Do you think that trachoma in Africa is trending in the right direction?
Trachoma is very much a disease that is linked to the level of economic development. So as you get clean water supplies, you reduce the level of trachoma. I was really astounded at how low the level of cornea transplants Asia, Africa, Latin America is compared to the need. So Japan is a very developed country, and they have the highest level of cornea transplants per need. Even that is at 3.6%. Latin America generally is kind of a medium level of development. China, as you know, is probably pretty much on par with Latin America in terms of economic development, but the level of cornea transplants is much, much lower, as it is across India, Southeast Asia, and Africa. Comparing China, Southeast Asia, and India, I think there's a lot more cultural resistance to giving up corneas to be used in other people. Culturally, there's a lot more kind of a cultural sharing back and forth between Latin America and the U.S. for more of some of the cultural attitudes and willingness to let the cornea be taken from relatives after they die. What really struck me, and the reason I made this slide, was just how far above the rest of the world that we're looking at China is.
Why do you think China seems to have such a maybe proclivity, you could say, for refractive procedures relative to their population?
So there is a huge middle class in China that is able to afford refractive surgery. The other contrast there, I think, is Japan. It's almost the leftmost there. Japan has a case where you had leading surgeons 10, 15 years ago, very publicly spoke out against refractive surgery and said it was not a good idea. And that has really hindered adoption of refractive surgery in Japan. There are a lot of occupations where you're not allowed to wear glasses in China. There are a lot of, there's the army, other public security occupations. Yeah, so this is about the share of laser procedures in all refractive procedures. There at Japan at the bottom, Africa does not have that huge a market, but laser surgery is a lot easier to do than incisional surgery where you may be putting a piggyback lens into the eye. This is looking at the proportion of the population that is receiving medicine. And we're talking about Western style medicines, chemical medicines. That's important, particularly in China and India, a little less so, where there's a long history of what's now called traditional medicine. In China, there are a lot of traditional medicines people might start taking when they first become aware they have glaucoma. And it's only after the disease progresses more that they move on to a Western style chemical medicine.
We have Latin America again with these impressive results.
Latin America, most of Latin America has been at kind of a medium level of economic development for a century. And so they've had a long time of manufacturing. They have a lot of well-established pharmaceutical companies. Most of the glaucoma medications sold in Latin America are generics. So they've made copies of expensive medicines developed elsewhere. I've grouped procedures here into three types, kind of the newer class of procedures, the microstents and canaloplasties. SLT filtering surgeries are the traditional glaucoma surgeries, the trabeculectomies and the tube shunts.
Lots of people are talking now, I know in our magazines we are as well, about things like MIGS. I mean, this looks like the future, but we can see from the chart that adoption is still pretty low.
The number one barrier is cost. I'll take India as an example. Prior to this interview, a week or so ago, I talked to a doctor in India who had performed some MIGS with the eye stent. Cost there was the equivalent of $1,500 US. They can do a trabeculectomy for about $20. We're looking at disease population and treated population. China, way to the left in terms of the size of the disease population, which is not surprising given how big the country is. Japan, way to the right, which in this division of regions is the smallest. So that makes sense as well.
Yeah, these proportions are pretty low across the board. I mean, even Japan is around a 10-to-1 untreated to treated ratio. Why do you think so many patients in these regions are going untreated?
So much of retina disease does not really have an effective treatment yet. The disease populations in this chart includes, for example, people with dry AMD or more advanced form geographic atrophy. There's no approved treatment anywhere in the world except Europe recently for those diseases. Southeast Asia and China, treatments are covered by insurance up to a certain limit. In China, it's been 4 injections and then that's it. It's not covered anymore. But these are endemic diseases. They last forever. So they need treatment forever. It's not a one-time thing. Great. Now this is retina surgery. Vitrectomy is needed. How much bigger market China is than everyone else.
We've been kind of like ignoring a little bit Southeast Asia and Africa. What do you think some of the reasons behind this are? I mean, the obvious one being just a lower level of socioeconomic development and things like that. But like, let's hone in on some real obstacles that aren't, that general in nature.
Retina surgery is a very highly specialized surgery, very specialized equipment, not just in terms of vitrectomy machines, which is the basis of, but the hand pieces and other tools used in the surgery itself. They're expensive. So the level of training for retina surgery, it's a much more difficult operation than cataract surgery is.
Peter, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate all those insights. Very, very valuable. And yeah.
And it's my pleasure.